G is for goodwill. Hey, this is Sarah. I am coming back for the ABCs of business, which is just a bunch of stuff I really wish I'd known about 10 years ago when I got laid off and jumped into freelancing full time. Every week, I'm going to share one word that I think people don't really know about that needs a little more attention. And this week, it's goodwill. And it's not the used goods thing that's in the US. This is more about that feeling and sense of positive, mutual benefit, having a general good wish for others, but also for yourself. Something that comes up a lot with the people I work with is that their mindset, it's more about survival mode. It's more about second generation immigrant families. It's more about the more I work, the more I suffer, the better I'll do. And when that is your mindset, and that was absolutely my mindset, what happens is you create a business where you're just punishing yourself as much as you can, hoping that some kind of financial reward comes out of it. And when it does, it just leads to more punishment. And so I found myself working extra hard. I'd often use that as an excuse with postpartum depression to not face a lot of what I was going with. But there definitely was this sense of I can only charge more if it hurts more. I can only grow my business if I'm working more and suffering more. And you can start to see how this might go wrong. And it gets to a point where you start to see people who say you don't have to suffer to grow your business. And then we get skeptical and we're like, well, obviously you're lying. Obviously you are doing something illegal. And that's just not the case. So I picked goodwill because one, I think we need to have goodwill towards ourselves and really see our business as something that can make our life better. You don't have to suffer more. You just need to provide more value. And there is no inherent value in your suffering. Just gonna let that flow over. So when I bring goodwill into the situation, I'm having it for myself. I'm having it for my client, even if they're acting pretty weird. I'm going to assume the best intentions for them, and this is going to relieve so much stress. When you're prospecting and they haven't written you back, assume goodwill. Assume something happened. Assume they haven't seen it, and eventually they're going to get back with you. When you're following up, maybe you're going to wait a week for that first follow-up. Then you're going to wait 2 weeks, then 3, and then you're going to send one last note that says, this is the last time I'm reaching out. Just wanted to say, hey, if it ever changes, you reach out to me. Just assume the relationship is good, and then good things can come from that. That's not to say it's always good. That's not to say you're not being ghosted or ignored. But I'm saying when you choose to view it from a perspective of goodwill, it allows good things to still happen for you. Scenario 1, you're treating it with goodwill. You're following up as if everything's fine, and then you're just letting it go into the world. If they ever do change their mind, they're going to come back and say hi, and you can have that relationship. Scenario 2, you assume bad things. A, you don't follow up at all. And since most business happens on the 7th or 8th follow-up, that means you're not getting that business. B, you write something short or nasty or not nasty. I don't know what kind of notes I'm sending. But you write something short or clipped, or you include some kind of language that can come off as passive-aggressive. Then you're going to risk damaging this relationship with someone that you don't even know. So it's just not worth it. So we're going to have goodwill for ourselves. We're going to have goodwill for others. And then this one should blow your mind if I express it correctly. So that's the big maybe. Then we're going to have goodwill for the whole story of our business. And how I've used this is basically a reflection, when you're coming up with new products or you're trying new services or even you're trying new clients, and all of the tension and pressure to you is this big, will I or won't I? Will they or won't they? The basic dramatic tension in every story, every movie, anything that we like as humans. And that will they or won't they, will I or won't I, it adds dramatic tension in a fun way for media and fiction, but it just adds stress in business. And I can see this in the big picture. Will I or won't I make my billings this month? Will I or won't I make my yearly income goal? But it can also be in these little micro situations where will I or won't I resolve these edits? Will they or won't they say yes to my project? And I find it's just so helpful and it's so freeing if you go into all these situations thinking, yes, it already happened. Yes, I will. That's the end of the story. So let me think of an example to make this seem less crazy. Really what comes to mind are tense situations where I feel like I'm in trouble or I did something wrong. So let's say I'm working on a project and I send in the assignment on the due date and I say, here it is. And then a week later, the client comes back and says, hey, you were supposed to send that. Why didn't you send that? If I don't have goodwill for the situation, for the client, for me, my first response might be to react and say like, I sent it to you on Monday. What are you talking about? How dare you imply I wouldn't do something? That's not going to lead us anywhere, even if I'm right about it. Even if in my mind, maybe that's what I'm replying. But goodwill means sitting down to type that email and saying to myself, oh, they must not have seen it. Something reasonable has happened that I don't know about, and I'm just going to trust that this situation is already resolved. We're already best friends. We're already moving on and forgetting this ever happened. And then I'm writing the email from that place to say, hey, Susie, oh, I can't imagine how stressed you must feel thinking I didn't meet that deadline. Here's the email I sent and the address I sent it to. Let me know what happened if I need to change what I do in the future. How different is that, right? How understanding, how kind is that? And how I wish people might treat me like that. And it seems like such a small thing, but what that does is it took me from ruining my day and saying, oh, they don't think I did the work. I'm terrible, or they're terrible, or this is why this business doesn't work, stuff like that. When in reality, I just handled that situation and I just made everything better. In fact, I turned a miscommunication into an opportunity to make our relationship stronger because now they know even if something goes wrong, I've reinforced that I'm going to address that positively and with goodwill, and we're going to maintain our relationship. And believe me, I think about this every single time I get bad edits or I get the sense someone's writing me passive-aggressively in email. The first thing I think is, this is all temporary. We have already resolved this. We're already friends and this problem is past. So how would I write this note knowing this has already been resolved? So much stress gone. So much stress gone. So that's the G word, goodwill. Try to bring it to your next scenario and see if that helps things. And now, my cat.
Trapped on his pillow. He feels glued to.